Hello friends! So today I am going to attempt to tackle the biggest and most difficult and the biggest thing that everyone argues about, well, the biggest thing that trainers and compliance quality people argue about. Why do I have to write comments on my assessments? So this is like a bugbear, and every RTO I go into, the compliance says the same thing and the trainers say the same thing, and compliance is like, nobody writes comments, and if they ever write a comment, it's like, good job or great work, and they don't write anything else. And then trainers write like, I give them feedback when I'm standing there with them, and I tell them what they do well and I tell them what they don't. Why do I need to write it down? Okay, so I am going to attempt to put this dispute to bed and hopefully have trainers and compliance people be a lot happier and a lot less stressful. So here's the answer from both sides. So the answer from compliance is the reason why trainers have to provide comments is because we want evidence of context within the assessments, okay? And we want to see like a higher level of authenticity and stuff like that, which is very, very hard to get when you're doing validation on an assessment, particularly on a practical assessment. Like, how is it valid? Where's the evidence that it was authentic? Like, what was actually done? Okay, so part of the problem though is that a lot of practical assessments are really crappily designed. And the fun, look, and so this blame, on this particular point, the blame falls both equally on trainers and assessors as it does on compliance, because we have to meet the training package standards. And when we put together practical assessments that require the trainers to write a lot of stuff out, the trainers won't do it because it takes too long. Like if you've got 20 students doing a practical assessment and you've got to write, the date, the time, the context of the assessment, the instructions for the assessment, the location of the assessment, like what was, like the dish that was cooked or the machine that was used and things like that. There is actually not enough time to be writing all of that information out, as well as actually watching the students do what they do. So trainers have often come back to me with the argument of like, the more you make me write, the less I can actually focus on watching the students do what I need them to do and actually making a proper determination of if they're competent or not. And then the thing that ASCA auditors and TAC auditors come back with is like, we can't see any context of how the assessment was actually done. We don't know when you did it. We don't know where you did it. We don't know, what piece of equipment you used. We don't know what the hazards and risks were that you guys actually identified and things like that. It's just like a bunch of series of ticks. So here is the solution. This is what I build into all of my assessment tools. And I'll be honest, my clients really like it. They really like this model. My assessors really like this model because it puts the onus on the student to collect and document that evidence of context, right? So what we use when Anna Wire are developing assessment tools, we use job cards, okay? So the extra forms and stuff like that, that's where your context and that's where like the context and the authentic like guts of the assessment need to be. And if your students are putting the stuff properly into there, then there's not a heavy reliance on having trainers and assessors need to do written feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up like 2 examples of job cards from 2 units of competency that I've written to show you guys what this looks like. I'll do one in an RII context, and I'll put up one from like a hospitality context or something like that, or maybe business. But just to show you like how we actually do this. So like even in things like when our students are doing a presentation for business, I have them do a presentation planning tool so that like when the students are planning it out, they're like, okay, when am I doing this? Where am I doing this? What's the context that I'm doing this particular task in? What are some of the things that I need to be aware of? So like, let's just take this across like 3 different industries. Okay. So childcare, first example of how we would do a job card in childcare would be that obviously we've got our checklist, and we've got our checklist of all the practical things that we need to see. But let's say one of the tasks was to, change a nappy, okay? So that's like from the baby's unit or something like that. So, the job card for that would be, what was the name of the baby that we changed? Just the first name, not the last name or anything like that. So who did we change? When did we change them? What was the location that we changed them in? What were some of the things that we used? So our gloves and the nappy and the change table and things like that. What were some of the hazards that we needed to be aware of? We need to make sure that the baby didn't fall off the table. We needed to make sure that we were using all of our hygiene tools. So, using gloves and using wipes correctly and everything like that. So that would be in like the job card, okay, that we're preparing. So the student like has mentally prepared for the assessment of like, well, this is what I'm going to do. One of the things that this does is from like a fairness perspective, the student, like if a student fills out a job card, like a preparation card to show that like they know what they're going to be doing, it's super, super clear that the student actually understands what they're going to have to do. I have to change a tire, okay? Like automotive, like if I'm going to balance and change a tire, then, these are all the tools and equipment that I'm going to use. These are the hazards that I'm going to be aware of. This is the time that I did it. This is the type of car that I changed the tire on, because it's different changing a tire on, like a small sedan as it is to changing it on like a, big Ranger, or as it is to changing it on like an actual truck, okay? So that's the kind of information that goes into a job card. If it's like hospitality and we're making a salad or we're making a sandwich, okay, what equipment are we going to be using? What boards are we going to be using? What PPE are we going to be using? What time did I do it? What were the ingredients that I used? What service period was it for? Okay. All of this sort of stuff goes into the job card. And look, job cards are generally no more than a page. Like in civil construction, it's kind of like a mini version of the pre-start is what we would use as our job card. And it provides the context. All right. One, it informs the student of what they're actually going to do. It provides the context of when the assessment's occurring, how the assessment's occurring. It's completed by the student, so it's like genuinely authentic in like the student actually understands their task, how to prepare for the task, how to interpret the task. Like that's a ridiculous criteria. Did the student interpret the job requirement correctly? Well, yeah, if they've completed a job card and they've done all of the planning for the task, then yes, they've 100% done that. And because you've got all of that authentic evidence done from the student, okay, then there is less requirement for the trainer to then have to spend time physically writing all of that stuff out for 25 students, when 25 students were perfectly capable of taking 3 minutes to complete a job card to show that they actually understood what they were going to be doing in their assessment, right? So there is a better way of doing this than to have this age-old argument of like, all I'm going to do is have a checklist and then I'm going to have the trainer write a shitload of comments about what it is that the trainer saw on the day. Like, we can come up with different ways of doing this. And look, if there is other ways that you guys do this where you don't have this argument with your trainers and your students, like share that knowledge, okay? Share that knowledge across our industry, because seriously, it's an argument that happens all the time. It's an unnecessary argument that happens all the time. And like, we can do better. So that's our way of handling it. Because of that, we don't stress out and have this argument anymore in a lot of my RTOs. And yeah, that's kind of like, that's how we handle it. So if there's other ways, I totally want to hear about it. If you think my way is crap, I want to hear about that too. Like, I would be interested to hear, like, if you think that that's the wrong way to handle it. But yeah, that's it from me, guys. Thanks very much. Have a good day.